They glittered in portraits, whispered through vaults, and vanished from public view for decades. Queen Mary's emeralds were no ordinary jewels. But when King Charles made a quiet decision about their fate, he didn't just stir tradition, he triggered a royal firestorm. What began as a historic bequest is now a power struggle tearing at the seams of monarchy itself. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. Whispers of the emeralds date back over a century, precisely cut, impossibly radiant, and steeped in regal symbolism. They adorned Queen Mary with commanding elegance, often reserved for moments of calculated diplomacy and power. Unlike other royal gems which shifted between generations as mere ornamentation, these emeralds carried secrets. Rumored to have been gifted by foreign dignitaries and hidden during wartime, they vanished after Mary's passing, swallowed into the labyrinthine archives of the monarchy. The mystery became legend, and the legend faded into silence until now. King Charles, known for straddling the divide between duty and emotion, reportedly revisited the vaults in early autumn, initiating a confidential review of heirlooms meant for future queens. It was within these hushed meetings, behind closed mahogany doors, that he made a decision that would shatter royal balance. The emeralds, those very emblems of old-world power, would be entrusted not to his current queen consort Camilla, but solely to Catherine, the Princess of Wales. No fanfare, no announcement, just a quiet confirmation to his closest aides. And yet, that single choice echoed through the palace like a thunderclap. It didn't take long before palace corridors buzzed with uneasy energy. The phrase "unexpected allocation" became code among staffers. Whispers among royal circles hinted at a strategic move, a signal from Charles of who truly represented the future. And as curiosity turned into scrutiny, questions surfaced. Was this an inheritance of beauty or a passing of power? One insider claimed the emeralds were described by Charles as not just jewels but statements, a rare glimpse into the monarch's intent to shape a narrative far beyond pearls and protocol. Outside the palace, royal watchers noticed a peculiar absence. During a recent state event at Windsor, Camilla, who had been expected to attend in regal prominence, was conspicuously missing. No public explanation was offered, but within certain walls the absence spoke volumes. It wasn't just a missed appearance, it was a statement wrapped in silence. Catherine, on the other hand, stood poised beside the king, elegant, unwavering, and most notably unadorned, as if to signal that what had been offered was not yet worn, but already hers. But behind velvet doors and ancestral portraits, a confrontation was brewing. Camilla was not just sidelined, she was enraged. When Queen Consort Camilla was informed secondhand about the emerald's fate, the air in Clarence House reportedly froze. Sources describe slammed doors, whispered curses, and an ultimatum no one saw coming. The fury wasn't about the jewels, it was about what they represented: exclusion. She hadn't heard it from Charles. Not from a formal letter, not even through an aide with a semblance of tact. Instead, the news reached her in the most devastating way, an overheard conversation between two senior courtiers, whispered in haste yet loud enough to wound. The emeralds, Queen Mary's historic gems, symbolic of royal legitimacy and the continuation of sovereign tradition, had been promised not to her, but to Catherine. That betrayal stung deeper than any headline ever could. It wasn't the loss of jewels that broke Camilla's composure, it was the realization that she had been quietly erased from a moment that should have confirmed her status as queen. Within hours, the calm inside Clarence House shattered. Aides who had served through decades of palace storms whispered of the Queen Consort's explosion as unprecedented. She demanded answers, but more than that, she demanded validation. The walls reportedly trembled with her voice as she lashed out not just at staff, but at the very system she believed had finally accepted her. She had stood beside Charles through scandal, endured public hatred, fought for dignity in shadows cast by Diana, and now when the crown was finally hers in name, the jewels said otherwise. Her rage was not petty, it was personal. Behind the closed doors of their private chambers, the Queen and King faced a reckoning. No royal decree could disguise the silence that stretched between them. Camilla accused Charles not just of making a decision without her, but of sending a message that her reign was temporary, symbolic at best, that when it came to legacy, he had already chosen his future queen. He tried to offer her reason, speaking of optics, of Catherine's growing role, of the public's adoration, but none of it mattered. To Camilla, the emeralds were never just stones. They were proof that after all she had endured, she belonged. And now that proof had been handed elsewhere without a word. Palace insiders later confided that Camilla, in her rawest moments, uttered words that chilled the room. He used me to survive the storm and gave her the throne once the skies cleared. It wasn't bitterness, it was devastation. For years she had walked a tightrope, earning cautious acceptance in a world built on legacy and image. But in a single silent gesture, Charles had realigned the line of power, and she felt herself slipping out of it. Staffers reported the Queen's pacing footsteps echoing through halls into the night, her voice falling into silence only when she was completely alone. This wasn't merely a rift between husband and wife. It was a clash between two definitions of monarchy, one rooted in duty and tradition, the other in reform and reality. Camilla had believed she could finally rewrite the narrative that once cast her as an outsider. But the emeralds told a different story. One where history had already decided the heroine, and it wasn't her. The palace tried to quiet the whispers, but the damage was already done. For Camilla, the betrayal was written in emerald, carved in silence, and sealed in the knowledge that the crown she wore was lighter than the one Catherine was being prepared to carry. But while Camilla waged a war within the palace, Catherine remained silent, and her silence was more powerful than any speech. Why her? That's the question echoing through royal circles. Why did the king choose Catherine for Queen Mary's prized emeralds? The answer lies not in favoritism, but in a quiet strategy shaped by symbolism, duty, and the future of the monarchy itself. For King Charles, the decision wasn't spontaneous. It was the product of years of watching, weighing, and waiting. As monarch, every gesture is a message, and every bequest carries weight. To hand over Queen Mary's emeralds wasn't simply an act of inheritance, it was a declaration. The monarchy as it stands is undergoing an era of redefinition, and in Catherine, Charles saw something rare: consistency. Through scandal, heartbreak, and shifting public moods, she remained untouched by controversy. Her poise, her silence, her steadiness, they were not just traits, they were tools of survival. In a family where noise often drowned legacy, Catherine's quiet strength became the crown's greatest asset. Behind palace gates, insiders speak of late-night conversations between Charles and Queen Elizabeth before her passing. Conversations not just about jewels, but about legacy, about who could carry the weight of the crown without letting it crack. It's believed that Elizabeth, always measured and deliberate, once wrote to Charles with a line that would linger in his mind for years: "Choose the one who reflects the crown, not just wears it." That line, reportedly stored among Charles's private papers, is said to have shaped his thinking when the matter of the emeralds resurfaced. In a family marred by rivalry and reinvention, Catherine had proven herself to be more than just a wife to the heir. She had become a stabilizer to the institution. Historians and former aides point to countless moments that revealed this alignment. Catherine's role during the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, where she quietly took the reins in public-facing events. Her visits to hospitals, her restraint during internal crises, her refusal to weaponize the press. She never chased the spotlight, and yet it followed her, not out of drama, but out of duty. And it was this very restraint that separated her from other women in the royal arena. While others made headlines, Catherine wrote a legacy between the lines. The emeralds, long dormant in the vaults of power, thus became a metaphor for more than regalia. They symbolized readiness, a passing of torch not through ceremony, but through character. And while some may argue that Camilla, as queen consort, had earned her place in the lineage of royal jewels, Charles's decision revealed where his compass truly pointed: to the future, to the one woman who had carried herself as queen long before titles declared it so. What makes this more profound is the growing consensus among royal historians who have, after decades of studying transitions, concluded that Catherine was always inevitable, not because of bloodline or ambition, but because the monarchy, in its most vulnerable moments, leans on endurance. And endurance, they say, is what Catherine embodies. The emeralds were simply the proof of what had already been written quietly, consistently, and irrevocably. But destiny, when declared aloud, can ignite revolt, and Camilla was far from done. In what many dubbed a defiant stunt, Camilla arrived at a charity gala draped in emeralds not Queen Mary's, but close enough to provoke. Cameras flashed, headlines exploded, and whispers of rivalry turned into roars. It was no longer subtle, it was war. The message was unmistakable. On a night meant to champion unity and grace, Camilla turned it into a battlefield of silent signals. The emeralds she wore weren't from the royal vault. They were personal acquisitions, stunning in cut and craftsmanship, selected with purpose. To the uninformed, they were just dazzling jewels. But to the monarchy and its watchers, they screamed rebellion. She stood tall, flanked by advisors, greeting guests with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Those close to her that evening described her as eerily composed, but pulsing with resolve. The photographs were everywhere by morning. And though no official statement accompanied her appearance, the symbolism couldn't be ignored. If she couldn't wear the crown's emeralds, she would craft her own. Within hours, media outlets leapt on the display. Analysts, jewel historians, and former palace insiders were invited on air to decode what many were now calling Camilla's counterstrike. Her emeralds were compared side by side with Queen Mary's famed pieces. The similarities, though subtle, were deliberate, eerily deliberate. "This isn't fashion," one commentator insisted, "it's protest. And it's personal." Tabloids labelled it a royal challenge. Broadsheets framed it as a power play. Social media erupted into a storm of division. And amid the clamour, a deeper unease brewed beneath Buckingham's chandeliers. The timing of the event only intensified the impact. Catherine, the Princess of Wales, was notably absent. No explanation was given, no official calendar conflict cited. Her absence left a vacuum one Camilla filled with calculated precision. The cameras had no competition that night, and without Catherine there to shift the narrative, Camilla's image became the story. Royal correspondents speculated endlessly. Was Catherine kept away to avoid direct confrontation? Or was her absence a statement of its own, an intentional silence in contrast to Camilla's defiant volume? Behind closed doors, the palace struggled to control the fallout. Advisors urged King Charles to address the headlines, to clarify, to reassert royal unity. But the king, already walking a tightrope between emotional loyalty and political foresight, refused. He reportedly told aides, "The more we speak, the more we splinter." But silence, as it so often does in royal circles, only fed the fire. With no statement, the public was left to draw its own conclusions, and the results were stark. Polls, pundits, and dinner tables across Britain split in opinion. Some praised Camilla for asserting her place. Others condemned the move as disrespectful and destabilizing. Suddenly, the emeralds were no longer about heirlooms. They had become a line in the sand. One camp saw tradition and continuity in Catherine. The other saw resilience and earned power in Camilla. The monarchy, without ever saying a word, had opened the door to a narrative it could no longer contain. The silence was strategic, but it was also dangerous. For every unspoken message, there came 100 interpretations, and in the court of public opinion, clarity had become a currency the crown was quickly losing. But while the palace danced in symbols and optics, something ancient stirred. An artifact resurfaced, changing everything. Locked for decades beneath Buckingham Palace, a sealed royal vault contained not just the emeralds, but a handwritten note from Queen Mary herself. When palace archivists were ordered to verify the jewel's provenance, they unearthed something no one expected: Mary's final words and her choice of heir. The vault, a seldom touched chamber deep beneath the palace, was known only to a handful of royal custodians. It housed the monarchy's most sacred relics, objects of incalculable historical and symbolic worth, untouched by generations out of respect, tradition, or fear. when Charles quietly requested that the emeralds be formally authenticated before their ceremonial transfer to Catherine. It was intended as a procedural formality. But protocol, as the royals are learning too well, has a way of unearthing truth that cannot be buried. As archivists catalogued the jewels with meticulous care, one of them uncovered a velvet-wrapped packet sealed with the wax crest of Queen Mary herself. Inside was a handwritten note, yellowed with time and trembling with significance. It was dated not long before her death. Its Conte. NT, a directive clear, defiant, and impossible to ignore. She wrote of her vision for the monarchy's future, not bound by blood alone, but by dignity, restraint, and duty. And then came the sentence that struck like thunder. Let these emeralds rest upon the crown of the future queen, chosen in grace, not marriage. There was no ambiguity, no hidden meaning. In a single line, Queen Mary had cast her gaze beyond her own generation, beyond traditional succession, and onto a figure who would one day embody the crown's enduring strength through character, not title. For those privy to the discovery, the implication was immediate and irreversible. Catherine had always been the intended heir. The moment this revelation reached the king, everything shifted. Advisors were said to have gone pale, stunned not by scandal but by the clarity of the words. The emeralds were no longer just a symbol of King Charles's private choice. They were now tethered to the wishes of a queen from a bygone era, a woman revered for her foresight and political cunning. Camilla's protest, so loud and bold, suddenly found itself weighed against the gravity of Mary's sealed conviction. The balance of legitimacy tilted, not through decree, but through destiny. But the vault could not contain what followed. Within days, the contents of the note were leaked. Whether by accident or design, no one could say. But once it surfaced, the media seized it with ruthless energy. Headlines screamed of Queen Mary's secret prophecy, op-eds debated the meaning of chosen in grace, and royal commentators drew lines between past monarchs and present fractures. The public split yet again. Some marveled at the elegance of tradition fulfilled. Others decried the continued sidelining of Camilla. What had been a private inheritance transformed into a national reckoning, and in the silence that followed, only one voice remained. Absent, but not for long. Now, armed with proof and legacy, Catherine could no longer stay silent even as Camilla prepared her next bold act. She had always stayed above the storm until now. With whispers turning into venom and headlines fueling division, Catherine made an unexpected move. In a carefully crafted public statement, she didn't just accept the emeralds, she honored them, and reclaimed the narrative. For weeks, she had watched in silence, as commentators dissected her absence, as Camilla's emerald display flooded the press, and as Queen Mary's note exploded across front pages. Catherine had said nothing. Not a word, not a gesture, just composed silence, deliberate and unreadable. But silence has its limits, and when the vault discovery became public knowledge, the pressure reached a boiling point. The world didn't want calm anymore. It wanted Catherine's voice. And so, through a written statement released by the palace, that voice finally emerged. Gentle yet unshakable, the words were measured, but their weight was undeniable. She opened with humility, calling the inheritance an honor steeped in legacy. But what followed was far more powerful. She spoke of Queen Mary with reverence, calling her a woman of vision, whose belief in dignity over entitlement endures. Then Catherine subtly turned the focus not to herself, but to the history the emeralds represented. She referenced Queen Elizabeth not by title, but as a quiet teacher and a sovereign of unparalleled wisdom. She acknowledged the weight of tradition and the responsibility that now came with it. But nowhere in the statement was Camilla named, not directly, not even alluded to. And in that omission, Catherine delivered her sharpest message yet. This was never about rivalry, it was about duty. The response was immediate. Media outlets hailed her grace, describing her as a queen in spirit already. Oil commentators praised the statement's restraint, noting how it diffused growing unrest without igniting new flames. Polls shifted overnight. Where Camilla's defiance had split opinion, Catherine's words stitched some of it back together. Even those critical of the monarchy's inner workings admired her ability to rise above the chaos without ignoring it. And within the palace, aides reported a sense of cautious relief, a feeling that perhaps the worst had passed, but not everyone saw it as a peaceful gesture. Behind palace walls, Camilla viewed the statement with narrowed eyes. To her, it wasn't healing, it was tactical. A subtle display of dominance wrapped in humility, a crown disguised as a compliment. She reportedly told a confidant, "She says nothing, yet controls everything." And perhaps she wasn't wrong, because Catherine's greatest power had never been confrontation, it was in mastering the silence, then speaking only when the world leaned in. And this time, the world didn't just listen, it applauded. Still, beneath the polished words and public praise, tensions simmered. The statement may have calmed the nation, but it changed nothing between the women at the heart of the conflict. One had received the emeralds, the other had been publicly bypassed. And though the game seemed momentarily paused, another move was coming, one that wouldn't be ceremonial, political, or symbolic. This time, Camilla would make it personal. As the world leaned into Catherine's grace, Camilla prepared to make a move so personal, it would stun even Charles. No one was supposed to read it. Yet when Camilla's personal diary entry leaked to a tabloid, the nation got a glimpse into the wounds behind the crown. "He never saw me as a queen," it read, one sentence that shattered decades of silence and left the monarchy trembling. The leak arrived like lightning, unanticipated, jarring, and impossible to ignore. An unnamed palace source, whether disloyal or desperate, delivered pages from Camilla's private diary to a tabloid known for its ruthless appetite for royal scandal. Within hours, the internet was ablaze, and at the heart of the uproar was not a scandalous affair or a political misstep, but pain. Honest, blistering, unvarnished pain. In her own handwriting, Camilla's words betrayed a woman exhausted by decades of struggle to be accepted, only to be eclipsed at the height of her reign. The diary revealed wounds that had never healed, old ghosts that never truly left her. She spoke of Charles with aching contradiction, of love long fought for, but respect never fully felt. And when she wrote, "He never saw me as a queen," the illusion of royal unity cracked. There was more. Lines etched in private desperation spilled into public interpretation. Camilla laid bare her torment over Charles's unresolved connection to Diana. She described how the public still whispered her name like a legend and looked at her like a footnote. But it wasn't Diana alone who haunted her, it was Catherine. In scathing but sorrowful confessions, she admitted envy of the younger woman's effortless grace, her beloved status, and her unchallenged position in the royal pecking order. "I was the storm he needed," she wrote. "She became the calm he chose." Those words, written in isolation, echoed through headlines with venomous clarity. The public, already raw from weeks of royal tension, now found itself confronted with something unexpected: vulnerability. The response was as divided as the crown itself. To some, Camilla's heartbreak was relatable, an echo of every woman who'd ever been overlooked, who'd ever fought to be seen. To others, it was manipulative. A cynical cry for sympathy disguised as emotional truth. Commentators argued whether the diary was an invasion of privacy or a calculated leak meant to reset the narrative. Royal experts debated its authenticity, but what no one questioned was its impact. The palace was silent, but inside its walls, the effect was seismic. Charles, according to insiders, was shattered. Not just by the leak, but by what it confirmed: that the woman who had stood by him through exile and scandal now felt discarded in the very palace they had dreamed of ruling together. Friends described him as withdrawn, unable to look Camilla in the eye. For a man who has long walked a tightrope between personal love and public legacy, this moment may have marked his greatest fall. And while Catherine remained dignified and silent, the emotional spotlight had shifted. Suddenly, the nation wasn't just choosing between two women, it was questioning the emotional price of wearing a crown. But as the scandal engulfed them all, it was the king himself who would deliver the final word, one that sealed the future. With the monarchy at a tipping point and the press baying for blood, King Charles summoned his inner circle. Hours later, a royal decree was issued. Its wording was simple, its consequences monumental. The emeralds would go to Catherine, and with them, a silent message: The crown's direction is clear. In the hours after Camilla's leaked diary sent shockwaves through the nation, Buckingham Palace was no longer merely the backdrop of drama, it became its epicenter. Inside its walls, whispers turned to debates, and debates turned to urgency. The king, weary from the strain but still resolute, called an emergency summit, not for appearances, but for clarity. Those summoned included senior courtiers, legal advisors, select family members, and one glaring absence, Camilla. As the room filled, tension gripped the air. What had once been an inheritance matter was now a national question of leadership, perception, and identity. The future of the crown, and who symbolized it best, stood at the edge of a historic decision. Charles, known for deliberation rather than impulse, surprised even his closest advisors with his tone. There would be no further hesitation, he acknowledged. The damage, public doubt, private division, a monarchy bruised from within. Then, calmly but firmly, he laid out his final decision. The emeralds, in honor of Queen Mary's written wishes and in recognition of Catherine's unwavering dignity, would be formally entrusted to the Princess of Wales, not through quiet agreement or whispered consensus, but in writing, sealed, signed, and declared. It was a royal decree, bearing the sovereign's signature, intended to silence speculation and set a definitive course. The message was unmistakable. The legacy of the crown would follow grace, not grievance. That evening, the official statement was released. It referenced Queen Mary's note directly, calling her words a guiding light through turbulent times. It framed the emeralds not as spoils of status, but as symbols of service and sacrifice. The king praised both women without naming conflict, thanking Catherine for her composure and recognizing the weight of what she would carry forward. Phrases like continuity of character, shared values with her late majesty and future stewardship of the realm's spirit were carefully chosen. But behind the eloquence lay a deeper truth. This was a coronation without a crown, a ceremonial shift that favored symbolism over ceremony. And for those paying attention, it wasn't just a gift, it was succession in spirit. Camilla's absence during the final signing did not go unnoticed. Some say she was informed only after the decree was finalized. Others suggest she chose not to attend, unwilling to witness what she viewed as a betrayal wrapped in tradition. Whatever the truth, her silence was deafening. As the public read the royal communiqué, sentiment surged again. Support for Catherine reached new heights. Editorials hailed the move as necessary, even overdue. Some saw it as Charles reclaiming control, others viewed it as a passing of the torch. One not born from bloodline, but from belief. And yet, beneath all the formalities, there remained a sense of unresolved energy and undercurrent, that something still lingered in the shadows. Because even as Catherine was crowned with emeralds, and the monarchy seemingly steadied its course, the story wasn't over. But even with the emeralds sealed and the decree signed, one last shock awaited, a gesture no one expected, not even Catherine. Days after the emerald drama ended, a royal courier delivered a parcel to Catherine. Inside was a letter and a small unlisted jewel. It was from Camilla. In what may be her most enigmatic gesture yet, she offered a piece of herself, or a warning cloaked in velvet. No formal announcement, no public statement, just a quiet knock at Kensington's private entrance and a parcel marked with Camilla's own seal. It bypassed aides. It bypassed protocol. What lay inside wasn't wrapped in palace crests or royal ribbon. It was personal, deliberately so. A brooch, antique in style, delicate in design, unmistakably worn. Its origin wasn't the crown's collection, but Camilla's family estate. The jewel, while not grand in scale, held meaning that outshone emeralds. Alongside it was a handwritten note, brief, haunting, unforgettable. For the Queen you will be. From the Queen they never let me become. Within hours the palace was buzzing. The gesture stunned even those closest to Catherine. Was it an olive branch extended after battle or a dagger hidden in silk? Some interpreted it as a peace offering, a woman finally surrendering to the weight of inevitability. Others saw it as a final blow, cloaked in melancholy. A veiled accusation that, despite the emeralds, the title and the praise, Catherine was only allowed to rise because Camilla had been forced to fight. The line between resignation and resentment blurred with each rereading of the note. And why? E.T., the sender, gave no further explanation, no follow-up, no clarification, just silence. Catherine's response was never shared. In fact, there was no reply at all, at least, not publicly. Those closest to her describe her reaction as deeply moved, visibly shaken. She reportedly spent hours alone after reading the letter, brooch still in her hand. Whether in sorrow, guilt, or contemplation, no one could say. What is known, however, is that the brooch has yet to be seen in public. It remains locked away, kept perhaps not as a gift, but as a memory, a symbol of everything that was sacrificed for grace to win. Because Catherine may have received Queen Mary's emeralds, but Camilla had given her something far heavier: perspective. And so the drama that began with a vault sealed in history ended with a gift passed in silence. Two women, bound by power but separated by fate, left to navigate a monarchy that demands sacrifice from all and gratitude from none. The public may remember the emeralds, the decree, the headlines, but behind it all were human moments of pain, legacy, and quiet rivalry. In the end, no crown is ever freely worn. It is negotiated, survived, and shouldered stone by stone, tier by tier. And just when the dust seemed to settle, the final act reminded everyone watching that even victories in the palace come with a cost. As the curtain closes on this chapter of emeralds and emotion, one truth remains: crowns are not only worn, they are fought for in silence. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.